I'm going to discuss exercises related to the lesson getting started. Uh, that is our lesson number 1. So, in order to follow these exercises, you should have gone through lesson number 1. Okay, then let's look at the first question. Launch Visual Studio IDE. I have already installed Visual Studio IDE in my computer. Therefore, uh, let's launch Visual Studio IDE, and here Community Edition, you can see it takes time. Okay, now let's look at the next part. Create a new folder on your desktop. Let's go to the desktop and let's create a new folder. I give it the name GS, any name you can give. And now let's look at the part, look at the next part. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project and save it with name first inside the folder. Okay, now I'm going to start file, new project, then uh, new project window appears, and here you have to specify Visual Basic, and here you have to select Windows Forms application, and then the name you have to give first. So our project name is first. Project location, you have to select the folder we have already created, this one, and then once you have pressed the OK button, then your project will be generated. This one also takes takes some time, so you have to wait. Now you can see empty form here that has been developed for you by the IDE, and here you can see the toolbox, here you can see the solution explorer, here you can see the properties window, and next part, add the button to the form. So you can, here in the toolbox you can see, if you shrink these categories, these are the categories in toolbox. Under common controls you can see the button. If you double click on this one, then a button will appear. Okay, this is our button. Now program the button such that it displays message 1 in a message box. That means programming the button means, in order to do that, you can double click on the button. Now the cursor is blinking in between two lines, this one and this one. Okay, so whatever the code you write inside this one will be executed when we click the button. Okay, here according to this exercise, uh, it should display message 1 in a message box. Okay, so therefore here message box, now you can see this one is called the IntelliSense. Okay, from that you can select message box, then I press the dot, Then from here you can select show, and here we can write message 1. Okay, and now save and run the project, our next part. And this one, so in order to save, here you can see one floppy disk and two floppy disks. uh, from these two I select save all part for the time being. That means whatever the modifications you have done to the existing project, everything will be saved if you click this. Okay, for the time being let's use that one. And now you have to save, then in order to run you have to go to debug and click start debugging. It takes time. Now you can see this one. Okay, this is our application. When you press this button, now in the message box you can see this one, message 1. Okay, so in order to stop running your application you can go to debug and click stop debugging. Okay, now uh, let's look at the next part. Again, modify the code for the button such that it displays message 1, message 2 and message 3 in 3 message boxes respectively. And this one, message 2, message 3. Okay, once you have done something like this, now when then you can save from here, save all, and that means now you have 3 lines of code, 3 lines in our in between this line and this line. Okay, so these 3 lines will be executed when we click the button. That means first it will execute this one, that means a message box with message 1 text will appear, then this one will be executed and then this one will be executed. That is how lines of codes are being executed, okay, one by one sequentially. And now let's go to debug and click start debugging. That's how you run your application. And once you have pressed this button, then you can see this is the result of first line of code, and this is the result of the second line of code, and this is the result of the third line of code. Okay, in that way you can see 3 message boxes. Okay, now we can stop running your application like this. And that is the end of the question number 1. Okay, now you can save it again, and if you want to close the solution, now this is close the your project. Okay, so you do not have to close the IDE, you can simply go to file and click close solution. Now your project will be closed but IDE is still open. Okay, now let's look at the second question. It says start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So file, new project. Okay, now let's give a suitable name. In the question it is not specified. Let's say project 1 or something like that. Okay, let's say project, let's say second, let's say second. Okay, and now you have to save it inside GS folder, the same folder we used for the first question. And now here you have to select Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, and now here you specify the name of your project, and here you specify the location, and after that you can press OK button. Now you can see this empty form as usual. Then let's look at the second question, second part of our question. Add the text box to the form and label it as name. Now text box, under common controls you can find text box. You can either double click, that is one way. Another way is you can simply drag and drop a text box. Okay, and here now once you have added the text box, you have to add a label, otherwise you cannot identify it. Therefore here you can select label and get it into here. Okay, and use this horizontal and vertical lines that appear to align your controls. Okay, controls, actually text box is a control. Okay, because these are common controls: button, check box, checklist box, combo box, these are called controls. Okay, and here now if you want to change this label, okay, so you can select the label and then go to the properties window. There you can see the properties related to the label, and from here you have to change the text property, then name. Okay, save all, and now change the name property of the text box to txt name property. Okay, so the name property, this one, it is unique to a control. The name can be used to identify the control. Okay, so here we have been asked to put this name, txt name. Now that is our new name of our text box. And then let's look at the next part. Add a button to the form. Now you have to add a button to the form. One thing is you can double click or else you can drag and drop. Okay, here in order to include the name, we can, in this way we can change the length of the text box. Okay, and here you can put the button. Okay, then the next part, change the name property of the button to btn display. That means you have to select the button and go to the name property, and change the text property of the button to display. Now you can see text on the button changes. That is the text property of the button. And now you can resize this form appropriately like this. Okay. Then we click the save all button. Okay, it's a good practice. You have to save what you do time to time. And then let's go to the next part. Program the button such that it displays the content of the text box in a message box. Now content of the text box should be displayed in a message box. The content of the text box will be inserted by the user. Okay, so you have to program the button. So simply double click on the button, and in the message box what should you display? txt name dot txt name means this one means the name of our text box, and we have to access its text property. Okay, text property, that means txt name dot text means what the user writes on the text box. Okay, so now let's see. You run this, go to debug and start debugging. If you click this one, nothing will be displayed on the text, and if you put something, and then when you press this, you can see what you have written here can be seen here. Okay, and you have to go to debug and stop debugging. Now we can move to the third question. So as usual, you can go to file and click close solution. Now in the third part it says start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. As usual, what we do is we go to here and this one, then new project window appears. Here you have to select Visual Basic, here you have to select Windows Forms application, and here you put an appropriate name for your project, and here you can select the location, same folder we use GS, and then you have to press OK. This one, this is an empty form. Change the back color of the form to black. Okay, in order to do something, so we are going to deal with the form, so form should be selected, and then if you go to the properties window, here you can see back color property, and from here you may select black. Okay, now you can see the back color of the form is black. Okay, and now change the width and height of the form to 600 pixels and 200 pixels respectively. Now In order to change the width and height, you have first you have to select the form, and then if you look at size, here width and height. Width you have to put 600 and height 200, then you press enter. Now you can see the dimensions of the form have changed. Then you have been asked change the title of the form to this is a text. That means if you select the form title, what you see in title means the text property of the form. So you have to go to text property, and here this is a test. Okay, now you can see that text here. Okay, and that's all about this set of exercises. Okay, and then let's go to the Visual Studio IDE, and then you can close your solution like this. So I have forgotten to save, therefore it asks from us save changes to the followings. If you want to change, you simply press yes button. Okay, and that's all. Thank you for listening.